Hi, my name is Alex with SOLARIT. In this video, we will cover the essence of lead generation and lead intake by our BPO. Disclaimer: any of our materials, videos, the scripts are written, electronic versions or otherwise in any shape and form, are to be used only in conjunction for lead generation for SOLARIT. Any personal use or third-party use is restricted, prohibited, and could result in a violation that will end into terminating your contract. So in this video, I will shortly cover the points that your agents have to go step by step for making an appointment with a consumer. One is your introduction pitch. So this has to be very quick and very simple. In the introduction pitch, we use something like, good morning or good afternoon. I'm glad I reached you. The reason for my call is to let you know that much lower electricity rates are available in your zip code. And of course, I'm not going to go through the whole script in this video, but I'm just going to give you the titles or the points, the major points that the agents have to cover in every single call. So the first thing is introduction pitch. A very simple, very short, to the point, a few seconds, without using names or anything like it. People don't care who it is that's calling them. They just want to know why you're calling them. So introduction pitch. The second thing is, and of course, users may have questions, and we will cover rebuttals and conversation in the later videos. Then the second thing that the agent has to do is establish credibility. And I'm going through my notes so that I can tell you exactly what they need to do. So the second point is establishing credibility with the consumer that you're talking to. And the way you establish credibility is using our software, which we will cover in the following video. The AI, the artificial intelligence software, by just collecting a simple information like a zip code from the user, will enable your agent to give the user certain information that they perhaps don't have or don't know, and therefore establishing credibility. The next point after establishing credibility is to give information to the user as soon as the agent asks for their monthly electric cost. So once your agent asks for monthly electric cost, our software again will give the agent a certain data which projects the future electricity cost for that consumer. It is very important because the electricity cost is inflationary cost in the United States. So what people pay today is not what they pay 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. And every state and every electricity provider has a different rate that they have increased their utilities by, their rates by in the past decade. SOLARIT keeps track of 11 years of history for every single power company in every state in the United States. So our projection that we provide for your agents to communicate to the customer is a calculated projection. It's not by seat of the pants. So again, further illustration of reiterating the point for the customer that it is essential for them to go solar energy versus sticking with their fossil fuel electricity is for the agents to communicate with the consumer what their future electric cost is going to be before, before they tell the consumer what their solar cost will be if they switch to solar. So then our software quickly will tell your agents how much the solar energy is going to cost the consumer, which the agent can communicate to the consumer. And for example, if the consumer is in California and they're paying currently $200 for electricity, the future electricity cost could be in 3 years, 250, in 5 years, 280, and in 10 years, $400. And I'm just using memory as an example, but very close to realistic numbers. So that's something that the agent will communicate to the consumer to grab the consumer's attention, because people do not realize that their cost is going to be higher as the time moves on. And then our software is going to tell the agent that this consumer can switch to solar energy for, let's say, $90 a month. And that payment is the same payment today, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And the agent needs to compare that $90 to, let's say, $400 that electricity is going to cost the consumer in 10 years. At that time, the consumer gets interested. If they're still talking to the agent, then the consumer is very interested. That's the point that the agent needs to qualify the consumer. So first is your pitch. Second is establishing credibility. Third is to give consumer adequate information that our software provides. And once the consumer gets interested, then you qualify the consumer. And the qualification is very simple. Again, we covered this in our script that we give you, but the major qualifications are: one, the consumer is a single-family homeowner. Two, the consumer pays income taxes. We do not want people that do not make any money and will not qualify for a loan for solar. So if they are retirees and they're on Social Security, most likely they won't qualify for a loan because they don't have income. And number two, the federal government in the United States gives a 30% solar cost rebate as a tax incentive to those who pay taxes. So if a consumer does not pay income tax, that means that they won't qualify to get that money back, and usually they are discouraged, even though the solar is going to cost less than their electricity, but we just don't want those type of leads. So the first qualification is they need to be a single-family homeowner. The second qualification is that they have income tax liabilities every year. We don't want you to ask what their income is. We don't want you to ask if the consumer is making money or not. The question is, do you have tax liability every year, or do you pay income taxes? In California, we do not care about the consumer's credit. We don't want you to ask any type of credit information. In fact, we don't want you to ask any type of personal information. That is our consultant's job. We make your job much easier. You book the appointment, and our consultants would do the qualifications once they get the customer on the phone. So the fourth state was that you qualify the customer. And after the qualification of the customer, you again reiterate what the customer will pay for solar energy versus the electric cost. And at that point, the agent asks the customer if the customer would like to receive what they're talking about in writing, because words are cheap, and we want to provide the customer a proposal, a written proposal. So the wordage would be, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, would you like me to send you a proposal right now and in writing, so you have all the details to consider all your options. The proposal that the customer receives, which we will go over in the later videos, will have 4 or 5 different financing options and payments, and indicates how many panels the customer needs and how many trees they save, and all the detailed information. We don't want to cover that this video or on this video. So once the customer agrees to receive a proposal, the agent then needs to confirm the customer's cell phone number, and reiterate, cell phone number. We don't want home numbers. The customer receives a text message that has a link to their proposal on their cell phone. So if they don't give you their cell phone number, they're not really that interested. And it is our experience that people who do not give you their cell phone number and use their home number usually never answer their home phones. So make sure the agent asks for cell phone number, and make sure the agent adds the fact that they're asking for the cell phone number is because the customer is going to receive an immediate text message that has a link to their solar proposal. Then the agent would need to ask for a valid email address. It is essential for us to collect the consumer's email. It is also essential that it is kind of like a qualification thing, that if a customer is not giving you a valid email, they're not that serious. and our software actually checks for valid email. If the customer is giving you an invalid email, the software will not even take the lead. So make sure you enter the correct email. Do not make up an email. Do not use a dummy email. And I'll tell you in the later chapters why that is so important for us. So once the customer provides the valid information, the agent will click one button, a proposal will be sent to the customer. So the next action for the agent would be to confirm with the customer that the customer, if they're on a cell phone, that they received a text message that includes a link to our proposal. And we want the agent to say, well, could you please click on it while I'm on the phone, make sure that it opens, then you have the proposal. You don't want to go through the proposal. You just want to make sure that the customer has received the proposal. It's important to validate that. And if the customer says, well, I will do it later, that's fine, but try to validate that while the agent is on the phone with the consumer. Now, once you confirm that the customer has received the email and also the text message, and they can open the proposal, then you ask for the appointment. And the wordage would be not that, you can pay $90, for example, instead of $200. Would you like me to book you a consultation with one of our energy consultant? It is a phone call, only takes a few minutes. They can answer all your questions and they can give you all your options. We don't want the agent to force the person, but of course, a good closing ability at this point is to the agent's advantage. Again, use the advantages that you have based on the information that we have provided you and we have provided the consumer. We have provided both you and the consumer what their electricity savings are going to be today, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So use that to encourage the customer to book the appointment. And once you book the appointment, then you need to ask the customer one more time that if this thing is interesting, and then if they say yes, then you want to, and this is very important, this will reduce the number of no-shows, which we rate you based on the no-shows or shows. And no-shows means we call the customer and the customer doesn't answer. That's called a no-show. So what we want you to do is make sure at that time you communicate to the consumer that Mr. or Mrs. Consumer, our consultant is going to book 30, 40, 40 minutes or an hour of their time to speak to you and discuss this solar proposal and cover all your options. They're not going to try to sell you anything. They're going to provide you professional information where then using that information, you can make an informed decision. It is a phone call. You can take the phone call anywhere. We don't require husband and wife, partners, or the whole family to be present. We just want the consumer to answer the phone and we call them because the consultant actually books their appointment calendar to make that call. So it is really very important on that phone call to make sure that the agent has a sincere conversation with the consumer, informing the consumer, and US consumers are really well aware of people's time's value, and they book appointment with their hairdresser, with their nail person, and so on. So they understand the value of time. So we want you to really reiterate and confirm the appointment time and make sure that the customer understands that somebody is going to devote certain amount of time to speak to them and to please take the call when the call comes in. Our calls usually come either from a 800 number or a toll-free number or a 415 number, since we're a California company. And you want to tell the customer that the customer will receive a timely call. Usually our appointments are within a 2-hour window. So let's say if the customer is booked for an appointment between 10 and 12 in the morning, they will receive a call within that window. We only call once. We don't keep calling the customer. So make sure the customer answers that phone call. It is really very important for the agent to confirm that time. So at that point, if all went well, the agent will thank the customer, book the appointment on the calendar, and goes to the next one. And this is the overview of how the agent needs to book an appointment. So please review this, review basically the sections that the agent has to cover, and the introduction pitch, credibility, giving information, and so on. And we will cover in the next video a step-by-step on our software, and the agents need to be trained on how to use the software. Thank you for your time.